Okay, so what have we here?
This is Castles and Crusades. Basically what we did back in 2005 is we were a D20 publisher, and we were working with Gary Gygax at the time, and he wanted to put his Castle Saga down. At the same time, we were kind of tired of D20. It was a little heavily mechanically driven, so we decided to do our own game called Castles and Crusades. We removed skills, feats, replaced it with an attribute check system, making the game fit. It's the same game you're familiar with, same classes, races, monsters, all that's the same. However, because there's no skills and feats, it's not so litigious anymore. It's basically a fast-paced, easy-to-learn role-playing game based around attribute checks. It takes like 2 minutes to learn to play it and 15 minutes to make your character.
One of the longest processes of the D20 system is picking out your skills. So I could see where this would be really cool.
One of the guys that ran for us, he did a D20, and he would run some of our adventures and stuff when we were doing it, and he found he wouldn't kill characters because it took too long to make new ones.
Right.
So he stopped, and that's not good.
That's right. That is true.
No fear of death means,
That's exactly. We've been talking about this for so long, ever since when 4.0 first came out, it was like nobody died.
Right.
It's like because it takes so long to roll the computer, and we were it really is.
And it really shouldn't be a job. It should be sitting down and just playing it. So in this, I got killed the other night. We were playing on our home game, and my character just got obliterated. And I just said, all right, I'm dead. Pull the book out. 20 minutes later, I was back in the game.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, you look like a trustworthy fellow.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's fast. And the other thing about CNC that it brings to the table, because it's attribute checks. When your character, you can try anything it doesn't matter. You don't have to look for skills or feats or whatever, you just try it. The CK is our game master is going to tell you what attribute check to roll, which means he gets to determine really the direction of the game. It's not going to be, if you're swimming a river, it's not necessarily a dex check. It may be a wizard trying to swim a river. If I make him do a dex check, he's going to die.
More than likely.
But if I make it an intelligence check, then he's likely to win. And he doesn't really get to say, well, why is that an intelligence check? I'm swimming.
Right.
Because I said it is. That's why it's an intelligence check. So just make your
He read the book, swimming book.
Yeah,
that sounds like it would be up your, because when he DMs, he likes to have a heavily story base with not a lot of the mechanics.
Arguments and I got to pull this feat out or that skill out or whatever.
I am Ian.
Oh, this is my son.
Ian from the Dwarven Tavern.
Nice to meet you. I'm Steve. Yeah, it sounds like we kind of game alike. And I do a lot of fast-paced, hard-hitting combats.
Yes.
And if you've got to take a combat and stop and look, okay, what does this do and that do, and does it stack with this? What kind of defensive? There's none of that.
That's awesome.
It's just roll your initiative. Did you hit? You rip the guts out. His intestines are spilled across the floor. What do you do next?
Right. So how is it being received?
Very well. We've been publishing it since we released in 2005. This Player's Handbook here is our 5th printing. We're about to be done with it and on into our 6th printing. I think it's over 14,000 sold so far of the core book here. And we've been doing it we've been publishing since 2000, but we've been publishing CNC since 2005, and it's got an absolute plethora of stuff. Jason Vey over here in the Imperial Trooper armor, he's done our Amazing Adventures pulp side, which took the Siege engine, that's our mechanic. He made a pulp game out of it. We've got Tainted Lands by James Ward and Star Siege by Josh Junior. So it's doing extraordinarily.
That's awesome. Now, for our podcast, do you have anything available for review that we can take?
Sure, absolutely. Let me give you Player's Handbook for Certainty. Here's a series that we've just launched. I've been wanting to do this series since 2001, and it's basically we're taking each of the mythologies of the world, starting with the Celts, we're going to do the Vikings, the Germans, the Slavs, the Japanese, Sumerians, Egyptians, and do a full treatment on it. Inside it's got all the gods,
incredibly cool.
Demigods, the history, background, all kinds of stuff. And this is the first one. The next one is Codex. I'm going to hate in the end how I titled these. It's Nordericum, which is the Vikings. We're going Latin titles to confuse the customers. I don't know why we're doing it.
It's romantic.
I just want to do it.
That's just how
you're the DM, man.
I get to do it. I get to make that decision. So,
Right,
so I'm
that's
good with it. Yeah, I think it started with Codex Germania, and I like that word so much.
Right, yeah,
It
that's
stuck.
cool.
But then when the guy who
It
wrote
sounds important.
exactly, but when Brian Young, who's writing them for us, when he told me the Viking one, he goes, you know, Latin for Viking is Nordericum. I'm like, no one can say that, but we're doing it anyway. So let me give you the Codex Skeltar. It's a phenomenal book. Of course, the Player's Handbook, which is our core book. This is all you need to play right here.
Okay.
And then let me give you a CKG and an M&T.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's the game plus the Celtic deal.
This might be a new favorite.
I am probably going to be spending the next 10 hours reading these all the way through.
Excellent,
Definitely.
Because this
And
does
then
sound
we'll,
like a system I will do.
What we'll do is we'll review the game and put it on our podcast.
Okay.
And then I'll send you an email, and maybe we can get a phone interview with you to have you on the show as well, and go from there. Because if it's as cool as you make me believe it is,
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I have
this
to
is
say,
going to be a new favorite.
and not to toot the game's horn because I'm selling it, but I didn't write all of this. I wrote part of the CKG and part of the Monsters and Treasures. But Davis and Matt Golden wrote the Player's Handbook. I wrote some of it. But I remember when we first released it, I was playing AD&D. I was running an AD&D game.
Oh, wow.
And I said, we're just going to keep doing AD&D. We kept doing it for about 4 months. And finally, Max said, listen, we're done gaming together unless you play C&C at least once.
Right.
I said, all right, so let's play it. And I haven't turned around since because I found it so versatile. The characters can really try anything.
So
I don't have to, when you're running the game, and you run the game,
Probably.
you don't have to think. If he goes, I'm going to do swing on the rope off and land on the dragon's head, all you have to do is say, attribute check. That's all you got to do. I mean, there's
That sounds awesome. There's no
That sounds very fast-paced.
oh, it's insanely fast.
It also sounds a lot less on rails than 4th edition D&D does.
It's. I do a game at Gary Con. I go every year. Me and Tim bring the trolls up there, and I do a table of 24 gamers. And we'll put it in a big giant U-shape, and it goes insanely fast because the system itself is so.
Well, it sounds like it does.
Yeah,
this is so
if
easy.
you only need
Probably-
to roll one roll to see if you can jump on a ladder, then jump on something's head, then that sounds like
just
it's going incredibly fast.
cutting out the skills. You probably cut 70% of the fat right off the side of the steak there. That's very cool.
And it also cuts a lot of the confusion off of. It's like, so where the hell do I use a tumble?
Exactly. why do I have this skill that I've made a slot for, or what?
Right, I
And
wanna
this
go,
is,
like,
and you know,
round
another
shape.
thing is we've had a discussion going back and forth for years about why it is that a character would get better in, like, you go out and you in a modern setting, right?
Yeah.
You go out and you shoot a bunch of people, and then you come back and suddenly you get better at using a computer. You know, it's like how does a skill check
How'd that actually
get
work?
better? Yeah, because you're doing something entirely
Right.
different, and we've toyed around with a bunch of variant ideas, and I think this is just this.
Well, that-
this
yeah,
is like the Occam's razor of.
That's where that level thing comes in because you gain a level in just doing stuff.
Yeah.
So you get a bonus 1 to your attribute check.
And yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So you become better at doing things that involve that because you're better at doing it
Yeah, doing things.
and not like
things.
ending in
Yeah.
specific.
If you went camping every weekend for a year, when you started, you wouldn't know how to do fire and all this stuff.
Right.
But I guarantee you, by the end of that year, you would be making a fire, setting up your tent, setting your fishing pole, sleeping without flawless.
You
Or
don't
you'd
have
be
a
dead.
plus.
Or you'd be dead, right? Yeah. Or the forest had been burnt down, and you'd be in jail, or what have you.
Eaten by a bear, all that good stuff.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
The other side of the coin.
Right, right.
After you didn't get better at it.
That's very cool. Well, we are going to move on and see who else
Pleasure
we can talk
talking to you.
Same here.